Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode of One Percenters. Today we have Ding Zheng. I'm super excited to have him here today, man. You guys don't understand. This is probably the most fun I've ever had researching someone for the podcast. It's been absolutely amazing. But nonetheless, man, the legend, the MC himself, Ding Zheng, the sales rapper, man. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Not closing deals can be super disheartening. Salesrap.io can elevate
Hey,
marketing.
let's go, man.
Videos help you with targeting. We do a lot on your web, Peter Parkering. You got ideas,
Yes,
we give them their
sir.
decibels. Pouring on meeting gets turned to a
I heard this now, like, yo, I gotta have him on the podcast,
Leave
man. I
all your
gotta
viewers
have him.
excited and skeptical. Led by Ding Zheng, he's done music.
So how are you feeling
Yes,
today,
sir.
man?
What's going on, y'all? Ding Zheng, the sales rapper, up in here. What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, of course, bro. Of course, man. I saw your story. I had just gotten into tech sales, right? And I go on my LinkedIn and I see him, bro, rapping on sales about sales on different beats. I'm like, yo, why is he actually killing it? I would have never expected to see someone who has meshed sales and rap together. Like that is like insane to me. So that was like one of the first things that popped into my mind is like, where did you get that from? Like, how did you find out that like you wanted to mesh those two? Which one came first? Was it sales or was it rap? Which one was that?
It was definitely rap. So I've been doing music for about 15 years at this point. Started out when I was super young.
Wow.
And this was back in the time, MySpace, SoundClick. This is before SoundCloud, right? So I was a young kid just making these remixes, putting them on YouTube. And my biggest inspiration at the time was Lil Wayne. My favorite mixtapes were like the was it Dedication, the Drought,
Right.
like No Ceilings. That was huge for me. Hearing Lil Wayne go over all these like radio hits, beats. I'm thinking, damn, I could do the same thing. Go on the internet, type in, instrumental, etc. And then I'd be on Windows
Right.
Movie Maker, right, recording songs on Turtle Beach gaming headphones at the time.
Oh man,
And
Turtle Beach.
that's a throwback, you feel me? But that's I've always been grateful for that. Is I started making music at a time when technology, now the technology is not as democratized as it is nowadays, but there was still, you didn't have to go to the studio and book time and rent out the space. You could just record from home and upload the videos online, and that was really the start of it 15 years ago.
Oh man, that is absolutely insane, man. Really young, you really got into it, and you just kind of just started making music right away after you got inspired by
Yeah,
that.
100%. And that's the thing. I was maybe, man, I'm trying to think, because that is probably like 2008, 2007. Probably first lyrics I wrote. I'd probably say 2008, 2009 or so. Probably my first time I made a video, and then rest is history. I just kept doing it because it was like a huge, probably my main hobby. I mean, still is, but
Right.
at the time, that's kind of spent all my time doing music.
Nice, man. That's pretty cool. So I definitely see that like music was absolutely like your main passion, when you were growing up. So when did the sales come into play? Was that always part of the plan, or is that just something that, fate just took its way and that's what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, kind of fate took its way. So I had continued doing music from middle school into high school, and then off to college. I was still, trying to pass my classes, but also make the music thing work. And around the time my junior year, summer, heading into senior year, I kind of seen the writing on the wall. Hey, I'm about to graduate, need to, achieve some type of financial independence, and music wasn't gonna make that happen for me, right? So at the time, for my senior year job search, I actually scrubbed my entire internet presence, took down all my old songs from the past decade,
Oh wow.
and then like really focus on applying to jobs, getting my career on track. And initially, it was not even sales. I applied mostly to consulting jobs because I went to Boston College. All of my friends at the time, they were getting jobs at EY, KPMG, McKinsey, all these consulting firms, right? So,
Yeah.
but because I had spent all my time in college working on music and shooting videos and trying to perform, my GPA wasn't where theirs were, right? So, and my interview
Right.
skills maybe not as strong. So I ended up not getting a single offer from a consulting firm. And in fact, I graduated college with one job offer, which was to go do sales for Yelp. And at the time, I thought,
Oh, wow.
wow, okay, Yelp, I've used this app before. They're a tech company. And I was expecting like a Silicon Valley style tech kind of work environment, right? And when I started, bam, you
Right.
get thrown into the boiler room, fed to the wolves. And, first week was out there making cold calls. So that was the pivot from
Man.
music to sales. It happened because music wasn't working out for me financially. Had to make that career move, and sales was the only uh, field or role that would accept me, and that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow, man, that's pretty crazy. How life kind of turns out that way sometimes. One way, you kind of expect like your path to be one way, but things kind of gradually change and shifts you over to a different way. For me too, that was like kind of something that that happened. Like originally, like my plans were to be maybe like an entrepreneur or things of that nature. But life just kind of happened. Things get into the way, and then you have to make that pivot. You have to make that shift, and you have to know when it's the right time to do that. But I think one thing that I think is absolutely amazing is that you've been able to kind of marry both the job that pays your bills and also like one of your passions as well, and kind of combine them together. So I know you're working at Yelp for a while. How was that experience for you? How did you progress there at
Yeah,
Yelp?
Yelp was a fantastic experience. When I first started, I think there's a perception at Yelp that a lot of people who start out at Yelp, it is a boiler room environment, right? It's a cold call farm,
Mm,
and it's a very sink or swim environment. And luckily for me, because of the work ethic I learned doing music and just being rejected my entire life, right? I didn't make it as an actual rapper, so I was comfortable with rejection at that point. I didn't have anything to lose, so I played the game, in the corporate level, made sure that I was building a good brand for myself internally at the company as a hard worker, as someone whose metrics are always on point. And because
right.
of doing that, it opened up an opportunity for me in which I was able to leverage something else that I had, which is a native fluency in Mandarin Chinese, to leverage that in a type of role transfer internally, to become more of a sales translator versus just the frontline cold caller. And then through that
Oh,
experience,
nice.
learning a more consultative sales process, because it, no, everyone says as a seller, you want to speak the language of your buyer, right? You don't want to be using all the terminology of your marketing department, and
Right,
dropping
right.
the buzzwords and whatnot. But uh, my experience at Yelp maybe took that to a whole new level, right? Because I wasn't even speaking the
Yeah,
same
for real.
language to my prospects as I was speaking to my coworkers. So I had to really learn how do you personalize, how do you tailor your message to your actual prospect.
Wow, nice, man. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that, how you were able to, take something that you already had and kind of elevate that to take you to the next level. And I think a lot of people can actually kind of, relate to that and kind of dig deep into themselves and kind of find out what's that unique thing they have or what's that X factor that they have into themselves that can, take their career into the next level. Because I know starting out in my like sales role, it was also pretty hard for me. I had a very similar experience to where it was mainly, cold calling as well. So I had to like dig deep and find out, what's my X factor? What makes me stand out and what makes me personalized? It makes me different from other sales reps. So for me, unfortunately, I don't know any other languages, but that would be cool if I did. Um, Actually, I do speak another language. I don't really talk about this all the time, but my girlfriend is actually Vietnamese, so I can speak some Vietnamese actually a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I've used it once or twice during like my sales role actually, and was able to really, uh, you know, speak to someone and they were able to relate to me. Otherwise, because it's kind of funny because I called him once, right? And then I would just speak in English and then he would just immediately hang up on
Yep.
me. And I'm just like, man, okay. And then he came back around again. I was like, all right, round two, let's go. So this time I realized what nationality he was and decided to, give it a try. And he was super receptive and I was able to set a meeting like right away with him. So it was super cool. But really, finding that X factor in yourself, digging deep, finding out what that is. It could be knowing another language. It could be your personality. It could be the way you talk. It could be some knowledge that you know about. Perhaps you have a deeper level of knowledge about business, and you're able to relate to different business owners in a deeper level. Everyone has something. So once you kind of dig deep and find out what that is, you kind of take that and you go ahead, you run with it. And I think that's something you did too, even to a further level, and that's with your rap. So I know you were working at Yelp for a while. Things were going quite well for you after some time due to the fact that you found your X factor, but you found a double X factor that you could also use one of your passions to help elevate yourself in your career. So I see that you're working at Yelp, but then when did the sales come into play, and when did you marry the two?
Yeah, 100%. So this is both a sad and a happy story, right? So at the start of 2020, I had left Yelp for a new opportunity, and this was in March, I believe, of 2020, and I lived in New York at the time. So imagine what was going on around March of 2020, right?
Yeah.
And so in hindsight, I picked a terrible time to start a new job, and within 4 or 5 months, I was looking for a new job again, right? But
Oh, wow.
but you can't change the past. It's never worth it to dwell. But got a great time at Yelp. Super grateful for that experience. Had a less positive experience at the following role, and then in Q4 of 2020, I was back in a very undesirable or not disadvantageous job market, looking for a new role. So at that time, I hopped over to LinkedIn because in my mind, hey, LinkedIn is the job board. This is where, it's like a virtual resume. I didn't know about LinkedIn content creation. I had no idea that there were influencers on LinkedIn that are video creators, right? So went on LinkedIn, uploaded my resume, started applying to some jobs, and then because I started hopping on that platform every day, I started noticing, hey, there were these people like Justin Welsh and Shay Rowbottom, all these folks that that were creating content on LinkedIn, right? Sarah Brazier, right? Because I remember distinctly one of my first memories was I saw Ross, corporate bro, had a webinar that he was promoting on his Instagram page. And then Sahil Mansuri and Sarah Brazier were focused on that. And then, I just saw these people, they're, well-known, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, well-known where? Right, so I hop over to LinkedIn, and I see these people have tens of thousands of followers, and there's this game. And immediately I knew, wait a second, I've been making YouTube videos, I've been creating content for over a decade at this point. I know a few things about sales, or have a bit of experience in this field. I like this topic about B2B and SaaS and revenue. Let's jump in the fray. Worst thing that could happen is I build a brand for myself, and that helps me in my job search. I get in front of more hiring managers as a result of having a social presence in the space.
Exactly.
And that's where Sales Rap was born. That was one of the first things. I assessed my own internal toolkit. Ding, what skills do you have? Well, I've made a lot of music videos and parodies. So my first song on LinkedIn was a remix of Jack Harlow's What's Poppin', and I called it What's Cookin'. Like you ever have your manager ask you, hey, yo, Ding, what you got cooking up for me today?
Right.
So I did a little parody of that. That went a little viral, and then that gave me the confidence to continue creating on LinkedIn, and I've been doing that ever since.
Wow, man. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, LinkedIn is like a sleeper, man. A lot of people don't realize, what you can do on there. Even like myself, before I even got into like tech sales, I never touched LinkedIn, bro. I was never on there. I was Instagram, and that was pretty much it. I didn't even use Facebook. But I started to get into Twitter. But as soon as I kind of got into tech sales, they were like, yeah, go ahead and optimize your, LinkedIn. And I was like, my LinkedIn? I was like, bro, I haven't touched my LinkedIn in a minute. I had to go in there and, dust it off. I was like blowing the dust off the screen. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's see what's going on.
My man, like,
but yeah, I
taking
myself,
cobwebs out the corner.
for real, bro. I really was, man. But that's where I also came across a lot of LinkedIn influencers. I was like, yo, what's going on? This is a whole different like section. Like you don't even realize that there's a whole nother world over here. And that's where I came across people like yourself. I also came across Justin Welsh as well. Funny enough, I bought his course as well. That thing is super helpful, by the way.
Yeah, LinkedIn course.
But
is
yeah,
great.
a lot of other
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
man.
Like shout
Everyone.
out to Morgan Ingram. Shout out to my guy KD. A lot of great folks on LinkedIn, man.
Yeah, bro. LinkedIn is definitely key, man. I think building that personal brand for yourself is really a big factor that a lot of people don't even consider sometimes. They just kind of go on there, post like a profile picture, update their work, and then that's about it. And they're on and then they're off. But I think really taking that time to invest in your personal branding is really important, and we see that that has taken you into a whole new like stratosphere. So, do you think it's important for people to go ahead and start doing that, start building up their personal branding? Maybe not per se like they're rapping or maybe making like video content all the
Yeah.
time, but at least being active on there and posting regularly. Do you think that would be beneficial for their careers in any way, or?
Yeah, LeRon. First of all, that's an amazing question. I have a two-part answer for that, and I also think that's a great segue into more of the sales rap stuff. But to answer your question, should everyone post on LinkedIn? Yes and no. I think yes in the sense that
Mm,
it's an objective value add and a personal career benefit to have a social media presence and a professional brand. Especially if you're
right.
watching this podcast, you're likely in the B2B space. Maybe you're in tech, maybe you're in sales. And in that case, a lot of the hiring that goes on in this industry is referral based, right? It's recognition based. It's not necessarily throw your resume into the big pile and then have it sort through the ATS, not setting yourself up for success, right? So, but what is the way to build up the network and the referrals and et cetera, around your professional brand is to leverage a platform such as LinkedIn, or like you mentioned earlier,
Mm,
Twitter, right? To build up that brand. And a lot of folks are saying, the resume is an antiquated process, right? In the future, we're going to be judged off of our online presence, and a lot of people. I think it's interesting. I'm hopping on a call with you today. This is our first time really having that face to face interaction. But I feel like we kind of already know each
right.
other because you're familiar with my content. I checked out some of your content, so I have a good feeling for your vibe. And during the interview process, I think that's similar, right? It's because people want to work with people that they're gonna enjoy working with, at least not hate working with, right? And having that
Exactly.
peek
Yeah.
into your personality, the type of work that you do, showing proof of your expertise in public is only going to help in the career regard. Now, the second point and my caveat is uh,
Hmm.
a lot of sellers conflate LinkedIn with social selling. Those are two separate things, right? Having a brand and a social media presence is not the same as using social media to sell for your day job. So if you are a
Right.
SaaS vendor, let's say you sell to other B2B companies, maybe you're in MarTech or sales tech revenue, right? And your main ICP, right, is active on LinkedIn, that's going to be a great lead source for you, right? You're going to source a lot of pipeline from social media. Now, if you sell IoT to warehouses in the Southeast United States, and your chief of security, et cetera, those companies, they might not be as active on LinkedIn, right? So in that
Mm,
case, uh, it's not a one for one correlation. Just because you're on LinkedIn doesn't necessarily mean it'll bring you leads and job results at your current role, but it definitely will help you in your overall career journey.
nice. Yeah, yo, that's a really good point. I haven't even like considered that aspect. Like, if the people that your company is targeting, their ideal clients, if they're not on LinkedIn, maybe building a personal brand isn't really needed in that degree because they're not
Yeah,
they're not
I
even
think
there.
I think it's I think
But
it's
I
good
def
to do, just but it's helpful to think about it. You're doing this for yourself, right? And
mm,
uh, and maybe that looks like you do more of that in your personal time. So your manager is not looking over you like, hey, I noticed you've been spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, but you're not pacing for your
right.
meetings quota this month.
Yeah, exactly, man. Those are really good points. I really like those, and I feel like a lot of our viewers will be able to, take a lot of gems from that. But I see that, you got started, creating content regularly and being consistent on LinkedIn. And where did that take you? Did that take you any further, or did you notice any career growth from
Yeah,
doing that?
absolutely. So because of a few of my videos gone viral, in my early days on LinkedIn. And keep in mind, I was, freshly unemployed, looking for a job and interviews at the time. And what something magical happened in that I started getting inbounds for job interviews and roles, but at the same time, also started getting inbounds from marketing departments saying, "Hey, Ding, we really liked the video that you made. It blew up on LinkedIn. Our whole team saw it and enjoyed it. Wondering if we could pay you to do something similar for our company." So that formed the basis of SalesRap.io, the agency, where we're full service and we do top of funnel content for B2B brands, in-person activations. You might have seen my videos at trade shows and conferences doing the freestyling, as well as highly personalized ABM campaigns. And that is combining the stuff that I learned about selling and personalization, from my Yelp experience, but combining that with the pattern interruption and the entertainment-based selling that I learned, blowing up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's actually pretty sick, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it pretty much worked out really perfectly because how many other people who are you're doing this? Nobody. So you really found like a really good niche for yourself to be able to capitalize in and not have any like competition at
Yeah.
all. Now, I see that you went ahead and started an agency, which for some people may be a big jump because that's really a business. So there's probably a lot of things that you may have needed to learn to go ahead and do that. I remember I myself, maybe like a year ago, I was very interested in entrepreneurship. So I wanted to make my own agency. I wanted to make like a social media management agency, a SMMA agency. And that was like a lot, man. I had to figure out the payment
Yep.
processing. I had to figure out the website. I needed to get virtual assistants. I needed to figure out the onboarding process. So it's a lot. So I think it's really cool that you were able to take that step into something maybe unknown. Did you know about business like to that degree at that point, or is it something you had to kind of learn on the
Yeah,
fly?
100%. So I think there's I'm giving a lot of two-part answers today. Oh,
We
excuse
love
me.
them, man. We love them.
So I will say, having sales experience in the past was absolutely huge in me being able to start the agency. Knowing how to have a sales conversation that's buyer focused, that's focused on problem solving versus feature dumping, right? Gave me a great foundation and to be able to close business and how to build the business structure around that. So, second part of this answer is I didn't really know what I was doing either, right? Because I didn't have the entrepreneurial experience background. I was actually a history major in college, and I was on a
Oh
pre-law
wow.
track, so it's pretty far from business, right? And I think that goes to show the lesson here is you don't always need to be an expert in anything you want to do. I think if you just start, and even to this day, there's a lot of parts of my business that aren't optimized, right? That I could be better at. But what I learned is if I let those fears stop me, I wouldn't have done anything that I did in the past year and a half. Met so many great people, make so much fun content, and try to change the game in B2B to make it less boring, right? So I think it's always worth it. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect. It might be even bad at some points, but even something bad is better than not doing it at all.
Man, yeah, that's really a true point, man. I definitely can attest to that. I think that is something a mindset shift that I had to learn recently is just kind of just putting yourself out there and just just doing it and not being so concerned about getting everything perfect and trying to make everything a piece of art. You even had a post like that was talking about that recently that I really agree with. Not trying to make everything a piece of art, but kind of just putting yourself out there and just getting started. Because I feel like that process of doing it is what will eventually create art because you learn from doing.
Yeah.
So the more you do, the better you'll get over time. And I had read this book recently called the what is it called? It is called the War of Art.
Art of
Yeah,
War,
the
Sun
War of
Tzu,
Art, and
like the old Chinese.
no, it's actually someone took it and flipped it and
Oh,
made it the opposite way.
damn! I'm gonna have to check that
Yeah,
out.
and it's based.
Damn, that's good.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. That one talks about like exactly what we're talking about, the war within yourself internally to go ahead and get started to create art for yourself. To get started with your passions, because he mentions that anytime you try to do something to like better yourself, there's always like this sense of resistance, right? So let's say like you want to start working out, there's always going to be like this pushback from yourself. You're going to be like, I don't have the right diet yet.
Yeah.
Like I need to have this perfect diet to go ahead and get started. So you're just like, you know what, man, I'm not going to start until I can get that diet down pack once I figured it out. But that's really just something internally that we all go through to where we don't really want to get started yet, and we make really good excuses for ourselves. The mind is the biggest enemy
That's
because
right.
it'll have you thinking all kind of stuff that you think logically makes sense, but really is just there to like kind of hold you back.
Yeah.
So once I realized that and became more aware of that, I was able to push through that and go ahead and get started with, getting started with tech sales. That was something that I had some resistance with. Making this podcast, for instance, I had some resistance with. A podcast has been something I've been wanting to do for quite some time, but I allowed that resistance to hold me down for quite some time. But once I realized that it was there, I was able to maneuver past that. So I think that's really cool as well. And man, I gotta say, like, your confidence levels are like through the roof, man. I was like doing some research on your work and stuff, and I saw that you were at like a booth and stuff like that, freestyling like live, man. And I don't know why, but like yesterday, well, yesterday when I was getting ready for this podcast, I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be on the podcast with Ding." Cause I've shown her some of your content before, and then she was like, "Oh, okay." And then she was like, "Are you gonna freestyle?" And I was like, "Freestyle?" And I was like, "Nah, we'll see, we'll see." So she was like, "Let's go ahead and practice." So I was like, "Okay." Bruh, as soon as I threw on a beat, and then she was like just staring at me, I couldn't even say nothing. I was like starstruck, bro. I was like, what do I say? But man, I've seen you at booths. I saw you. I think I saw you at like a comedy club,
Yeah,
bro.
Laugh
And
Factory
you were
LA.
there
Yes,
killing
sir.
it.
Yo,
Yeah, bro.
my
I
man
saw
did
that.
like 10 out of 10 research. I'm thoroughly impressed. I do a lot of these podcasts, but like, yo, no one's brought up the Laugh Factory performance yet. So kudos.
Yes, sir. We already know we the best in
Yes, sir.
business, man. We the best in business. But yeah, I saw that, bro, and I was like super impressed, man. People were throwing words at you like rubber ducky and stuff. And I was like, what? And you threw that on, bro. You was able to like flip that out. Like, wow, that's absolutely amazing. So, how did you get this? Where did you get this confidence from, bro? Because me, I would have passed out on stage. How'd you get that
I'll
confidence?
tell you, man. Everyone thinks that it's because I had a lot of performance experience in the past life as a musician. That's not true. I was actually never able to get like bookings on a show just because like the venues. I was staying, going to school in Boston right at the time, and that's not really a city that's known for
Right,
being friendly towards hip hop and the culture. You know what I mean? So like doing the
right,
type of
right.
music I was doing, wasn't able to get a lot of in-person shows or experience performing in front of audiences. But what gave me that confidence was actually sales experience. And I always attribute freestyling specifically to me making cold calls what gave me the foundation to be a good freestyler. Because think about what you have to do on a cold call is you have to embrace the fear of the unknown. You have to get over yourself and personalize your entertainment to whoever's listening to you, right? And you got to think quickly and
Exactly.
pivot and adapt. And what does freestyling entail? I think is all three of those things, right? Uh, so being adaptable in overcoming my fear of calling someone out of the blue and interrupting their day. I always thought if I could do that shit, man, I can get in front of a crowd and perform of people who are there and want to see me and are rooting for me versus someone who's like, "Hey, I'm busy. I'm in a meeting. You know, don't call
Right,
me."
right. Yeah, man, I can definitely see like how sales has had like a big influence on you. That is something I have to get over with too, like cold calling people out of the blue and then figuring out how to get past like certain objections, like I'm busy, because everyone has like that brush
Yeah,
off, that brush off. They're just like I'm busy, I'm not interested, but they're not even thinking about like what's going on. It's just like a reflex that
yeah,
you have to kind of get over. But I come from like a customer service background. I used to work at Starbucks, so like customers king over there,
yeah,
right? So I had to really learn that like when they say I'm not interested, I'm just not like, okay, well, have a great day. Like
yeah.
I actually have to like figure out ways to, kind of get around that and introduce them into something that could be really helpful to for them as well. So that is sick, man. Being able to have that supernatural level of confidence has definitely helped you for sure. But man, one question I wanted to ask you before we hop off on here is What would you rather fight, man? 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck, man? I've been seeing you doing that content on your LinkedIn, so I had to ask you, bro. What are you
What am
fighting,
I
bro? 'Cause
fighting?
that's a tough
So
question.
let me give you the
Yeah.
scientific breakdown of my
Okay.
my animal theory. And PETA, I apologize in advance. So I will always pick the 100 duck-sized horses, and the reason why
Really?
is if you look up how much a horse weighs versus how much a duck weighs. A horse weighs 1,000 pounds, 1 ton, right? And a duck weighs 2 to 3 pounds. So 100 ducks
True.
weighs that would mean 100 ducks weighs around 250 pounds, right? So 100 of the miniature horses is only a fourth of the total mass of the big duck. And then also let's break down the weapons that these respective animals have. So
Okay.
horses, they have strong legs and they can kick really hard, right? But that is because they're a 1,000 pound animal. If you take the force of a horse's kick and you shrink it, by orders of magnitude down to when they're 2 pounds, they're probably not powerful enough to really injure you. And on top of that, horses don't have sharp talons. They don't have teeth or anything like that that can hurt you, right? Ducks, on the other
Man, you're
hand,
definitely doing your research on
ducks
this,
are,
man.
ducks are pretty tough. They have wings, right? So they can fly a little
You're
bit,
right.
and they have very sharp talons. You see the web feet and it's cute, but if you look up close on a duck, they got claws. So now imagine that
Oh,
two
wow.
and a half pound duck gets blown up, hit with the extra large ray, and now it's 1,000 pounds. So imagine how big that claw is on that duck. So you mean to tell me the average
Oh,
average
man.
adult male probably weighing between 160 to 200 pounds? You think you're gonna really take on a 1,000 pound duck with wings and claws? That's so in my mind, I stand a chance at least against the tiny horses. Maybe I'll wear steel-toed boots, right? And I go around playing kickball, right? And I'll be survived. That's a stamina game. Against the duck, I don't think I can outrun that, and I certainly can't beat it. What am I gonna do? Kick it? Punch it? 1,000 pound duck right there. So I've done the research,
so this is
from the animal, what tools they're equipped with to do the job. I don't think I stand a
right.
chance against the big duck.
Wait. Let's think about this now, right? So this is a duck versus a horse, and I feel like those two have very different mentalities and very different ways of going about things. And I believe that ducks are a lot more docile than a horse would. So do you think a duck would attack you, or do you think it would run away despite your quote unquote small size? Do you think the duck would still try to defend itself and attack you?
Well, I think in the original premise of the question, I think it's it's like a cage match. There's some AI, there's some genie that put a spell on the duck. Like it's gonna fight. That duck wants all the smoke. You're not ducking the duck, right? Like this. I know it's foul, but that duck wants beef. We know poultry here. It wants all beef.
Right.
So
That is just hilarious, bro. I saw this on your LinkedIn, bro. I was cracking up. I was like, what in the world? But hey, it's always like it's always the content that stands out that sticks in your mind, bro. And this has been like something that I think about all the time. It's just like, which one would I pick? But ultimately, just like I think I would also pick the small ducks too. I mean the small horses, the 100 sized duck sized horses. I think that one makes more sense to me too, man. That is hilarious. Man,
that,
ducks and
that's great.
horses.
I never thought the first time that I made some content about that that would turn into an interview question on a podcast for me. So I'm grateful for that. That's a new life experience for me.
Always, yeah, bro. I always try to keep it fun and lighthearted, man. I always just try to have a conversation with people. But now this is a question that I kind of just have personally. Is like, let's say you're posting consistently, like on LinkedIn. Because recently I just kind of got into the rhythm of posting regularly. I even found like a software that allows you to kind of schedule the stuff that you're gonna post. Like, if you're posting regularly and that content isn't getting tons of traction, how do you stay motivated to keep posting? Because I see you're posting all the time, regardless of like the traction. You're still motivated.
Yeah.
You're still posting. But sometimes, man, if I put a lot of hours into something and I post it and I'm getting like 5 likes, some people, they might feel pretty sad about that. What's your way of coping with
Yeah,
that?
for sure. There's a couple of strategies that I use. One, I is what's helped me a lot is having a strong system for consistent content production. So I do this thing called Content Tuesdays. So every single night or every single week on Tuesday night, I get together with some friends and we film a bunch of videos. And then every single week that gets pushed off to my editor. And by the next Tuesday, I have a folder full of files I can post on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, all this stuff. So by building that into my schedule, I'm holding myself accountable, right? And by adding in the community, because my friends are getting content out of that as well, out here in Austin. So it doesn't require me to get up. Oh, I feel motivated. I got to write this post on LinkedIn. The stuff is there, right? And that doesn't have to just be for video. You can easily do the same process, which I also do for text posts, where I'll sit down, I'll block out 30 minutes maybe on Sunday night, and I'll just write 3-4 text posts for that week. So there's a lot of things you could do to take away from the effect of, am I feeling it in this moment? Because it's a lot easier to say, let me copy and paste, or let me upload this file and hit post, versus let me sit there and think about what I'm going to talk about today, right? To almost removing the creative from the posting itself and treating those separately has set me up for success. In terms of motivation in general, because right now LinkedIn algorithm is in a bit of a bad spot, right? It's I think views are down across the board for most of the creators that I know, and certainly on mine, I'd say for the past month I'm down around 43%, in terms of overall impressions. And one thing that I've learned is in times where I'm not getting that much, I just got to give more, right? Because it's your content isn't the only way that people can find you and connect with you on LinkedIn, right? And because it's a social but also a professional networking platform, the big value I get from LinkedIn is never the vanity metrics. It's never how many views am I getting, how many likes, comments am I getting. It's all about what types of people am I connecting with, right? So, for example, this month, I might not have gotten as many views as I did last month, but you and I are able to connect. And here now I'm on this podcast, we're having a great conversation and making some great content, right? And to me, that's way more impactful than I got 500 likes on a post on LinkedIn. So I always go back to what I'm measuring, right? Are the results there as well? If they are, then I'm not as concerned. But the other part is the giving. If I know, hey, maybe I won't get as many eyeballs on my content this week, I'm gonna ramp up the comments I leave on other people's posts. I'm gonna try harder on my comments, right? Because then people, first of all, no one's ever gonna be upset that you're in their comment section, right? They're gonna be like, hell yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, that benefits you, because if their post does well and you're one of the top comments with a bunch of likes on it, then chances are people are gonna check out what you're doing as well.
True, bro. That's actually something I just learned like within the last 2 days, because I was literally just posting my content. And I would reply to like people in my ecosystem. If they comment on my post, then I would respond to them. But recently, I learned the value in just commenting on other people's posts. Like, I always see people's content. I always think it's interesting. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I just comment on people's posts? And instead of just saying something like, putting fire emojis or whatever, I actually think about something to say that I think, is relative to the content that they're making. And that has been like a tremendous helper as far as like me getting an increase in followers. Actually, a lot of people see my comments and they come to my profile because they're curious. And I was just like, wow, that is absolutely like a cool way to interact with more people and get more engagement as well. And one thing I saw from one of your Instagram posts that kind of goes in on this same subject is that you were saying like you can't control the outcomes, but you can control the outputs. And I really thought that was like a really cool quote, and also like redefining what winning means to you. Like, everyone has their own idea of what winning is. Maybe that could just be setting a goal to post 100 videos this week or post 100 pieces of content. And as long as you're hitting that 100 pieces of content, then you're winning.
That's
You're winning in my book. So it's all about that mental reframing of what that means to you.
100%, man. I think a good example of that is recently I've been really doubling down on trying to grow my YouTube, right? And my first go around with YouTube, I think I peaked at around 500 subscribers. Was putting a lot of work on that, but really attaching like the value to how well my videos are doing. But what happened is long term I lost interest, right? And then I'd go from uploading once a week to uploading once a month to uploading once a year, and that's not a way to have the consistency you need to get the success you want. So I almost reverse engineered, right? Like did the math backwards. Like, hey, what do I need this time going on YouTube to succeed? Well, I need consistency. That's more important than anything else. So, going into this year, at the start of the year in January is when I first was like, all right, I'm going to take YouTube a little more seriously. So I started, producing more video content for LinkedIn that I was repurposing over to YouTube, creating the systems. And then when I moved to Austin, set up that in-person recording once a week in the processes with the editors. So I was able to ramp my output from maybe posting once a month at the start of the year. Now I post a YouTube short every single day and a long form video every single week, right? And the metric that I chose to define success was not how many subscribers I was getting, how many views I was getting, because that's not a reflection of my commitment. That's not a reflection of my consistent output. So I told myself, Ding, you gotta post 100 videos this calendar year, right? And so I just hit that the other week, and the some of the content is starting to blow up, right? That's not, I didn't optimize for now these shorts are gonna start getting views, but the duck horse stuff is entertaining. They've been kind of blown up a little bit, but me also knowing that none of that is possible if I didn't make the commitment to show up every day. So that's, I think at the end of the day, that's what's most important, is figuring out what are the outputs that you need to make to in order, whether or not the goal comes true or not. That the goal is not going to come true without those outputs. It's kind of like cold calling and set meetings or closing revenue, right? Like, you got to make X amount of calls to book X amount of meetings for X amount of demos, X amount of demos to have X amount of contracts out, to close a certain percentage of that. So it's that same philosophy I learned from sales, but applying to content.
Man, that's powerful that, sales can applies to everything, man. Like, I feel like once you kind of learn, like, in depth one thing in life, that, like, you kind of find a pattern in other aspects of your life as well. And one of my favorite books is The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. And he really talks about how he reached enlightenment through the way of the sword. And through that, he was able to see the patterns of life, really. So anything that he did in art and poetry and anything, he was able to see those same patterns in them and also excel in them. So you can definitely take your sales experience and apply that to pretty much any aspect of your life and be sure enough that, you will excel at it. But yeah, man, it's been awesome having you on the podcast today, man. We learned a lot from you and learned a lot of cool aspects about like how you got started in your career into rap and also into sales as well, and how you've kind of married both of them. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on to the podcast today, man. I definitely appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. And then I don't know if you noticed, but I just turned on my auto-tune. So we about to do about have a little fun right now. I'm just fixing my EQ settings, and then now we got the oh, that's very loud. Let's turn that down a little bit. So I want to do a live freestyle segment right here, and this could be like a clip they used to promote the podcast around. But what I want you to do is, we're on Riverside right now, and there's a chat function. So just like we did with the comedy show, I want you to throw some words for me, and we're gonna do it live.
Throw some words. Oh snap! Okay. Let me think. Can I think of some good words for you? All right. Let me think. It can be anything.
Looking for a chat? Is he...
Hey,
right.
It can be anything. Yeah, married to the game. Like, where's the wedding ring? Yeah, J.R. Smith, I believe in anything. Yeah, let it ring. On my LinkedIn, yeah, check his ding. Let's see the chat. Where's the chat?
Yeah.
There's chat, I'm bringing it back. I never fail. Enterprise deals, I was out here just closing a whale. Shout out my homie LeBron. We're doing a podcast talking about sales. That's the shit that I told you. Sales contest win a Toyota. Every day I be smashing my quota. I got the wisdom like Yoda. And you already know what I told you. And I might drink out of soju. I'ma feel like I'm Super Saiyan 3, 4, 5, Goku. Yeah. Hey, I'm about to come through with my rap plan. Yeah. See the bad signal was up in the night sky looking like Batman. Yeah, hitting the enter. I got a fired ember. They tryna swipe ain't tender. This is the 1%ers. Yeah. Sometimes my eyes red, I'ma look like the devil. Like, life is a video game, we take it to the next level. Yeah, I always been a rebel, bass in my voice, you could hear you the treble. It's true though, throwing it down like it's judo. I'm watching anime every day on my TV, I look like Naruto. Yeah, shout out LeBron, my homie, he ball like LeBron. It's me, I be dropping a song, feel like I'm King Kong. My name Ding, but not Ding Dong. Hey, I'm singing a song. Every day I'ma lead to the slaughter. 21, 21, 21 bottles of water. Yeah, I'm popping them bottles. Hey, you know me, I don't waddle. Yeah, hey, I'm a cold call, giving some live. Every day I step out with a drip. Hey, shoot from the hip. Showing all love. And we don't want war right now. Looking like doves. Hey, and it gets so litty. I got my business, I'm getting litty. Shout out to Cass and they doing kitty.
Yeah.
Hey, we in a committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it out to my bro.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah.
Hey, yo, that was crazy, yo.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. That was fun.
How you doing
fun,
that, bro? That's crazy.
man? It's
Listen, y'all. If y'all are on the audio only, bro, I was throwing words in the chat, and he was able literally freestyling off the words on command. That's crazy, bro. I can barely rhyme 2 words together right now, man. That's
man,
awesome.
appreciate it. You're too kind, too kind. I didn't stick out my auto tune on.
Well, you guys can absolutely see the talent that he has, man. So go ahead and tell the people where they can find you at and where they can book your services, man. Because if you're trying to grow, man, and you're in B2B sales or anything, or really anything in marketing where you need someone who's really out there, who's really going to bring attention to your business in a positive way, definitely hit up my man. So where can they find you?
Appreciate it. So all of my stuff is on salesrap.io. That's my website. That's all the portfolio and services, etc. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me, Ding Zheng. That's DingZheng. And you can also find my music on all the main DSPs, Apple Music, Spotify. Look up The Sales Rapper, rapping and bootstrapping. And finally, I'll plug my YouTube at The Sales Rapper, doing a lot of creative content around the tech space. I think we're the first people to do B2B reaction videos. So hit up the YouTube, watch some of those B2B reacts.
Nice, man. And I know you have some new music coming up pretty soon. The Sales Recession, right? So when can we expect some new heat from you?
You know what I'm about to do? I'm about to leak.
Oh, snap.
On this podcast right here. Just because I fuck with you,
Exclusive?
I'm gonna leak just a little snippet of a song off
Hey, we got exclusive
Recession-
right here from
Recession
Sales
Session.
Man. You
Let me
can't get this anywhere else.
Let me see if I have the file. There it is. Oh no, it's not. It's not here. No worries. Let me pull up the DAW file for it.
Oh yeah,
Give me
you're good.
give me a second here. But yeah, so the album is going to be called Recession Sessions. I went into this wanting to make an album for marketers because, you know, rapping and bootstrapping, that was my album for salespeople, right? I wanted to celebrate the profession of sales and all the folks in the community. And I wanted to do the same thing for marketers because as a marketing agency, that's the folks I work with most closely. But as everyone knows, this year it's been a tough year for marketers. I think a lot of folks, you either lose your job or you lose your budget, right? So that's something that's been happening to a lot of folks I know. So I wanted to kind of change the theme of the overall album and pay respect to all the folks that got impacted by some of the macro stuff that's happening in the economy. And my whole thing has always been about, in my first stint as a rapper, I was making all these songs, just trying to sound like industry stuff, like talking about shit I didn't, really wasn't really my lifestyle, right? Like I'm not, getting whips and like all this designer stuff. That's not really who I am. But I kind of bought into that because that's what,
Right.
Some elements of the culture, I think that stuff gets pushed. So I was, kind of
exactly.
caught up in that messaging. But nowadays, like, with the LinkedIn and the sales rap and finding, this great community full of folks like yourself, what that taught me was like there's a lot more topics I can talk about outside of like what's stereotypically, in the music. So that's the thing. What I realized, like I got a lot of feedback from the sales rap album. Like, man, we never heard a song about cold calling before. We never heard a song about getting ghosted by a buyer. So I want to do the same thing, for folks that are maybe going through a job search right now. They're feeling down, or they just got laid off. They're feeling down. I want to make sure, I'm making songs about that, so those folks can relate to it. And but let me play you this song. This song is called "A Recession," and I just got to show you.
Okay. Exclusive, y'all. Here we go. This is hype, man. Hey. Exclusive.
We're in a recession. Oh no, slowing down progression. Damn, folks losing their profession. It's falling down. We're in a recession all around. Hey, numbers down, downturn, slow down, growth is down, hard to hold it down, down, down. Hey, feeling down, double down, down round, turn around. I know that I'm down, down, down. Once it crossed the threshold, ain't no going back. Treat you like a number, sell you lies, hope you don't notice that. What's in the compensation package? Most folks not so pro at math. One day unlimited PTO, next day get laid off over Slack. It's like we got nothing better than cost cutting measures. How we have all these metrics, still forgot what to treasure. Whole lot of clowns have been following gestures. Industry code, I'm gonna call me a sweater. And his cardigan cover my fossil a flex. Had a floss on a low when I talk to investors. Some of y'all shady like a rap label. Not declaring for the draft, but you playing with cap tables. Making it hard to act faithful. Can't let anything slip between my fingers. This ain't cat's cradle. It's mad painful. Hit delete and try again like a bad angle.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey.
Man, that was sick, bro.
I appreciate that, man.
Hey, that was absolutely fire, bro. I like that one, man.
Hey.
Absolutely heat, man.
Damn, we both got the crowd cheer sound.
But yo, man, you guys heard it here. You guys heard the exclusive. Definitely be sure to stay tuned. Link in with him on LinkedIn and all different social medias. And stay tuned for new music on the way. Thank you for coming on, man. And this has been the episode of 1%ers.